Hi again. Here's the marshmallows that I made the other day. And today I'm going to show you how to dip them in chocolate to make them a little less messy to eat. These have been dipped in cornstarch, and I'm going to show you how to dip them in chocolate. They turned out very yummy. They're orange and strawberry or raspberry flavored, and they're very good. So when you work with chocolate and dipping candy in chocolate, you have to be very careful with the chocolate because chocolate can be real tricky to work with if you aren't conscientious about it. Working with chocolate, you have to heat it slowly. I have mine heating on in a double boiler, which basically is just a pan or a bowl inside a pan. I like to use this little glass bowl because it holds the heat better. And you put that in some hot water and you heat it over the water. If you have a double boiler, great, but if you don't need one. You just heat it over the water. Don't let the water boil up into the chocolate. Now, if you get any kind of liquid in your chocolate, if your hands are wet, if you drip something in it that's wet, milk, water, anything, your chocolate is going to seize, and that means it's going to turn hard and you won't have melted chocolate anymore, and then it's no good for anything but to eat. You can always eat it, but that's a lot of chocolate to eat. So I've melted my chocolate. I'm using dark chocolate mixed with some milk chocolate, so it's kind of semi-sweet chocolate. And I'm going to dip, first I'm going to do, before I dip it, the marshmallows, I'm also going to show you how to make chocolate peanut butter cups like Reese's. And so what I have here is 2 tablespoons of soft butter, and it's butter, it's not margarine. Half of a cup of peanut butter, and this is creamy peanut butter, and you can use any kind you like. It's easier to use a wooden spoon because they don't break. I've broken spatulas and I've broken and bent spoons trying to work with things that are a little bit stiffer. So just with your spoon, mix those together. Then you're going to add 1/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. And the recipe doesn't call for it, but I put in about 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, maybe about 1/4 for that little bit. That just gives a little better flavor. There, as you can see, just have a nice creamy consistency. I'm trying to work with everyday kitchen tools. I have a lot of fancy tools, but you don't. So I'm trying to make them as you could. So just take a teaspoon, round off the edges on the edge of the spoon. I have a prepared wax paper on baking sheet, and just scoop that off. I'm going to put these in the fridge for a little while, just to chill them enough to make them easy easier to handle because I want to shape them into eggs with my hands. So while they're chilling in the fridge for a few minutes, we'll dip the marshmallows. This was a very small batch. As you can see, it only made 10, 11 teaspoon size. So if you want more, make it double your recipe. Into the fridge these go. Now the top of your fridge is the coolest part. I always thought it was opposite because heat rises, and so it made sense to me that the bottom of your fridge would be the coolest, but I've since learned that that's wrong. So if you want things to chill a little faster, put them on the top rack rather than the bottom rack of your fridge. Okay. I'm going to leave this in the boiling water just so it, or the hot water, so it will stay. For some reason my dark chocolate didn't, it's still got little lumps. I don't know why. If your chocolate's thick, I usually put about a table or a teaspoon, and this is about half because I already put half of it in, of coconut oil, or you can use butter, or you can use shortening, some kind of oil, just a little, and stir it around, and it will soften it up a little bit so it's easier to dip. Especially if you're dipping something straight out of the fridge, then it makes your chocolate thicken up faster. Okay, now, if you remember, I made a few eggs by putting them in flour, and so I'm going to kind of try and dust some of that flour off. I'm going to just spread wax paper out on my counter, which you're probably not going to see, but that's okay. Dipping tools, but you don't probably. So I'm going to use a fork, a large fork, not a salad size fork, one with long tongs. And just take that, dip it in, it lightly on your, I kind of wipe the bottom a little bit and place it on the tray. And anything that's around the edge, can you see that? Anything that ends up around the edge, it's okay because it will peel off when you're finished. Wash my fingers off with water because then I don't want to get water in. So I use a paper towel. Okay, I'm going to pat these, get the flour off of them. Now the other marshmallows I dipped in cornstarch. I cut them in squares, and I'll show you how I cut them. I tried several ways, but the easiest way I found was with a pair of scissors. And so either a pair of kitchen scissors or just a clean pair of scissors. And I'll show you in a minute how I did it. so that they didn't stick. Because every other method I tried stuck to the knife and to my fingers and everything. All right. Once again, we'll dip this baby, turn it over. Tap it. Can't stress enough how important it is not to get any water in your chocolate. Once these are covered, you don't know which ones are which, so it's the luck of the draw. Kind of like getting a box of chocolates and throwing away the paper that tells you what they are. As if those helped anyway. Now, something I always tell my children when they're creating anything from the kitchen or anywhere else, or artwork or anything, that it's okay to be messy. You just clean up after yourself. An artist is messy. Yesterday I made s'mores for my grandchildren and we had a picnic on a blanket in the kitchen, or in the living room. And I was being so careful not to let them drip that runny chocolate on anything, and when I got done I found chocolate all down the front of me. And I hadn't even eaten one. I won't do any more of that while you're watching. Now let me show you how I did my marshmallows. Turn that on low so it will stay warm. Clean up my chocolatey mess. Awfully bright. What I did was I put the ones that weren't molded into a pan, and so they're very sticky. And in order to cut them, once you cut the middle in the center, they're very sticky. So I have a bowl here of cornstarch, and it's just a little tiny bit of cornstarch. And what I did was I have a glass of water here, and I'm keeping my scissors in the water in between cuts. Then I'm just taking a small slice each time, dip it again, cut a square, shake a little so it'll get some of that cornstarch on it so it won't stick to the next ones. To me, and there you have your squares that you can either eat as is or you can dip them in chocolate. peanut butter weren't in there very long, but they didn't really need to be. I would leave them in a little longer if you want to mold them. They're pretty soft. I'm also going to put some cornstarch on my hands as I do this. These aren't going to be very egg-shaped because they're too soft, but that's okay. I'll do them when we get off the air. It's just the same thing. Put your peanut butter in your chocolate. Now this is going to be a little harder because your peanut butter, your peanut butter does need to be cold, so I would recommend you put it in the freezer for a little bit. Otherwise you're going to have it all mixing with your chocolate, which tastes good, but that's not what you want. So after you make your peanut butter balls, put them in the freezer for a while till you can handle them, and then while they're cold, dip them in your chocolate quickly and do as I showed you. And that's it. So make some Easter candy and let me know how it turned out.